Last week, I read a quote from Khalil Gibran, which was this: when you reach the end of what you should know, you will be at the beginning of what you should sense. So just let that land again. When you reach the end of what you should know, you will be at the beginning of what you should sense. It's interesting because this song, almost like Being in Love, is all about sensing. It's all about being willing to sense that something's going on. You know, what a day this has been, what a grand mood I'm in. It's almost like being in love. I sense this feeling. And as we come towards the end of this month of balance, I really thought it was important for us to take a look at what really is at the heart of balance. So our theme, balance. Balancing between what you know intellectually and what you sense emotionally or intuitively. So that's where we were at the beginning of the month that I asked you to look at. In the first week, I said this: I'd like you to spend the month balancing your overworked brain with your ever-expansive heart. Really finding that place inside of you where you stop working so hard to figure it out. I don't know about you, but I can fall into that, where I work really hard to figure it out. How's this going to work out? How am I going to make it work out? What do I need to do to get this to be what I want it to be? As opposed to the heart side of me that's like, look, I trust and know that however this works out is going to be for my highest and my best. We had an experience the last 2 weeks where we had put a bid in on a home that we wanted to buy a home in Palm Springs, and we found one that was like exactly what would have been perfect for us as a starter home in Palm Springs. And the owners were like, God, we want you to have this. And so I took a leap. We both took a leap, and we said yes. And we put the bid in, and we got the real estate, we got our mortgage broker involved, and everything went through exactly the way we wanted it to. And then the owner took a different offer, even though we offered more. And there was a day there where Kevin and I were like, what happened? How did this happen? Should we have done that? And our minds were just like, never mind the fact that our hearts, when we got quiet, we went, that really wasn't our house, was it? There was a reason why we said yes to this house, and it's because two of our best friends live right next door. And that was really why we wanted to get that house. And at the end of the day, it was not our house. Because if it was our house, we'd already have it. But it's not, so we don't. And that's the balance between letting your mind take you on a very precarious journey and allowing your heart to tell you the truth. So it got me to thinking, what is the natural balance between my brain and my heart? What's the natural balance between my brain and my heart? When I look at a baby will cry when it's hungry. Does that mean, using Reverend Eric's teeter-totter, does that mean it's going into the emotional side in a negative place? No, not for a baby. A baby just is like, I'm hungry, and then it gets fed. And that's just the natural balance of, I need food, here's my cry, answer my cry, I get food, I'm good. Nothing wrong with that. That's a natural balance. When a baby's happy and sees something funny, it just laughs and giggles and is silly. It's kind of, do you ever watch a baby when it does all that stuff and you're just like, don't you wish you could still be like that? Where you just don't care how you look, what it looks like? Babies will laugh and slobber and snot coming out their noses. They don't care. You're the one that has to grab the tissue. They're not bothering. They're like looking to see what it is and throwing it out. But we don't do that. We have not allowed our natural balance to take over. I think we have a lot to learn from babies if we're willing to participate in finding this natural balance. So as an adult, I really want to know, what is the natural balance between my thinking and my feeling? So the title of my talk today is The Common Denominator. The common denominator. Now let me just first say what a common denominator is. And although you may think I would go to Broadway for this, I'm going to mathematics. So a common denominator is a common multiple of the denominator in a series of fractions. So let's just say you have 1/3 and 2/6. So the common denominator is probably going to be 6. It could actually be 3 even if you separate the 2/6. So the common denominator is going to be 6 because it'll be 2/6, 2/6. That's how you could break that down. Or 2/6, 2/6 equals 1/3. So that's how it is in multiplicity, in mathematics. And that's as much as I'm going to tell you about that. Now let's look at the common denominator with the elements, or nature. Okay? Extreme temperatures, hurricanes, fires. What's the common denominator? Well, scientists will tell you global warming. That's the common denominator in all of these things that are going on. So that's the common denominator there. With people, and this is the important part, what is the common denominator with people? W.H. Auden, Pulitzer Prize winning poet in 1948, for a poem called The Age of Anxiety. It might lead you to think that the common denominator in people is anxiety, if you read this poem. And you could actually think right now the common denominator in people might be anxiety, given what we are all living through. Here's something interesting. So, The Age of Anxiety won the Pulitzer in 1948, and right after that, Leonard Bernstein wrote a symphony based on that poem. And then about 10 years later, Jerome Robbins choreographed a ballet based on the symphony, based on the poem. And so if you look at the ballet, the symphony, and the poem, what is the common denominator? Now, you probably will think anxiety, because that's the name of the poem, The Age of Anxiety. But it's not. The common denominator is not anxiety. The common denominator is love. Anxiety is the reaction to a seeming loss of love. So the common denominator in people is love. No other faction, nothing else. And as I was putting this talk together and asking myself, what is the common denominator between my mind and my heart, between my emotions and my thinking? It is love. Love at the end of the day is going to be the common denominator between everything on the planet. At the center of everything is love. So it ends up becoming our common denominator. So W.H. Auden wrote this. He said, "Among those whom I like or admire, I can find no common denominator. But among those whom I love, I can. All of them make me laugh." So I love that thought. To all these people that are problematic or that I see as problems in the world, I don't really have a common denominator. They're all just doing their own thing that annoys me. Maybe not a common denominator other than maybe annoyance. But to the people that I love that he said that. He said, they're people who make me laugh. And I go back to the baby. A baby just laughs most of the time, really. Finds lots of things to be interested in. So my first question to you today is this. Who do you laugh with? Not at. Who do you laugh with? And I don't mean laughing with people at someone else, too. That's off the table as well. So it's not about that. Who do you laugh with? Who do you feel your most personal self with? Who do you feel most like yourself with? Who do you, and as he says, laugh, who do you allow yourself to see the mystery of life with and laugh together? It was a very disarming question when I got that. A lot of people don't find that they can laugh a lot because they're afraid they're going to be judged at what they find funny. We're already outside ourselves thinking about, is this funny? Should I laugh at this? How will that person feel if I laugh? Maybe they don't think it's funny, right? So who are you freed up to laugh with? Who in your life do you find that you just laugh with? So think about that for a second. Who pops to your mind? So the person that pops to my mind is somebody that I feel so comfortable around, somebody that I just laugh all the time around this person. You know, I'm not going to say names because I have a lot of friends and I don't want to make anybody feel like they don't make me laugh. But when you ask the question, as he says, the common denominator of love means I can be myself around everyone. Who is that for you? Now you're at the common denominator. Now you are at that balance of life, where life's not so serious, life's not so silly, but it's just so real that you can be honest and free with whoever that person is. And maybe it's a lot of people. And for me, it is a number of people. So who do you laugh with? It's a good question as we balance our lives. This month has been very good for me with this theme of balance. Like Julio and I talked about, how do I balance my play and my life and my work? How do I balance the things I want to get done and the things that I'm not getting done? How do I balance my diet? How do I balance my exercise program? How do I balance all of it? Well, there's a common denominator. And the common denominator ends up being love. And the real common denominator ends up being self-love. How much do you love yourself? The reason I asked the question about who do you laugh with, when you're with that person, you're in a really great place of self-love. You feel loved. You feel like there's nothing wrong with you. You feel like you can literally embrace that person or that group of people. So another quote that I found that I loved, Henry Mancini, and he said this: writing for TV or films isn't great art. You have to have a common denominator. It's up to the composer to make that common denominator memorable. I think about the movie Somewhere in Time. Anybody know that movie, Somewhere in Time? Christopher Reeves and Jane Seymour. Thank you. You know that moment in the movie, some of you probably don't know this, but the moment in the movie where he goes back in time and he's in love with her, but he has the coin from present day, and when he reaches into his pocket and pulls it out, he loses being back in time and he has to go back to present day. And I just remember that moment where Jane Seymour, he reaches in and pulls out, and she's like, Richard! And then he goes away. I was sobbing at that point in that movie. I love that movie. But what I really loved about that movie, and it's not Henry Mancini who wrote that, by the way, but there's just the score to that, and there's this one line, it's like, da 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 da. Barry, right? John Barry, yes. Just that line. Da 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 da. If you could get close, you would see goosebumps, emotion. There's this, as he says here, you just have to find a common denominator that's memorable. So in composing, that line goes through the whole movie. Every moment, and every time it comes in, you're like, ah! So my question to you is, what is the memorable thing about you in this thing called life? What is that memorable thing that flows through your entire existence? The thing that if I were to say, who is Scott? Well, there's this line that goes through him. What is it? Now, it can be good, it can be not so good, it can be anything. But you need to know, as the composer of your life, what is the common denominator of your life that flows through your whole existence? Because there is one. There really, truly is one. When I think about my own, I actually think about my sense of humor. Not my ability to make people laugh, but just the fact that I can find things funny. It can be annoying to people, but I really can find things funny. And that's one of my greatest gifts, that in the heaviness of life, I can find something. It's not great for Kevin, because we can be in the middle of an argument and I'll just suddenly have to be laughing, which doesn't feel good for the person that you're arguing with, that you start laughing. But it works for me really well, because it's my common denominator of life, because I get it. I get that life can never be that serious, because if I am making it that serious, I don't understand the balance of life. So, what is your memorable, what is your da 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 da? You each have one. I would love for you to find it. So, moments of love. If I'm going to say that the balance, the common denominator in all of this is love, it takes you and me to string together these moments of love to create this beautiful melody. So where are they? Now, I know we can find lots of moments that are not moments of love. We certainly had a full day of not being very in the midst of love when our offer was not accepted. We were like, what? And there was a lot of anger and a lot of upsetment going on. But what's behind it? What's behind all of that? Because that's what this balance is all about. Where is your connectivity between your mind, your overreactive mind, and your ever-expanding heart? So as we come to the close of the theme this month, our job is to learn how to balance the love. Now just think about this. I asked you this at the top of service. If you could spend this whole service giving your mind the opportunity of only thinking the thoughts that serve you, only allowing your mind to think about what moves you forward, what feels good. So if we have an ability to balance love in our lives, see that sign there? I'm going to cross to it. You can follow me, Mike. See this sign here? Love only. It's not just a part of the vision statement. It's not just two fun words together. That's the job. That's our balance job. Our job is to balance our lives from love. If the common denominator in all things is love, then our job is to put love and to find love everywhere we go. Even in situations like the one we had this week, or any of the situations that you are all living through. So, the common denominator is love. Ernest Holmes says this, and most of you know this quote. Love is the self-givingness of the Spirit through the desire of life to express itself in terms of creation. Let me say that again. Love is the self-givingness of the Spirit through the desire of life to express itself in terms of creation. I want you to notice that he says it's the self-givingness of the Spirit, not God, not something outside of ourselves. It is the self-givingness of this energetic flow, this energy that constantly is giving. That's what love is. And I love that he says at the end of it, in terms of creation. So love then is a living, creative energy. That's what love is. It's the only thing love is. A living, creative energy. It is constantly flowing through you in every single moment. At every single turn of event in your life, there is a flow of creativity that's constantly moving through you. So if that's what love is, how do we balance that in everything? Well, as I thought about this week, and I thought, how do I balance all these things in my life? It's not about that. Because the real question is, what's the common denominator in all of them? I can cut to the chase and cut through all the crap, but instead of trying to stay balanced over here, or balanced over here, or balanced here, it's not about that. What is the common denominator? And you know what it is? Your willingness or your unwillingness to put love at the center of all of it. That's the only balance that matters. Because that's the common denominator, love, in every single aspect that you're going through. You know, we talk about the four corners of the table, but you know, if I want to use a table, I'm not really focusing on the legs, unless it's wobbly. I want what's on top of the table. I want to be able to jump on top of the table and dance. I want to be able to sustain myself with everything under me, all the legs, all the strength. So what's the common denominator? Love. If you can balance that in your life, letting the creative energy that you are flow. Now, here's what's interesting about this. If you look at, back to the baby, if you look at a baby is constantly using whatever comes its way. Have you ever, I remember when I did a naming ceremony for this one, I've done many of them, but this beautiful baby, and it was in his mother's arms, or godmother's arms, and I was doing the oil, and I was putting oil on the crown for the mind, on the heart for the feelings, and then on the lips. And I remember this one time, I put the oil on the baby's lips for what will come forth from this child. I guess I had a little too much oil on my fingers. But I put it on the baby, it was like, and literally oil came on my face, and everybody's laughing. But I'm watching the baby, and I'm watching its eyes, and he's like, boom. And then the hand started going. It was so cool. I thought about that this morning. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. What if we were that involved in life? If we stopped thinking we knew so much and we got back to the natural balance of life and we started experiencing things from our natural tendency to love. I love this. We're way too involved in what we don't love. Do you ever ask somebody what do they like and they tell you what they don't like? It's like a natural instinct. So what do you think about that? Well, I don't like chocolate. What kind of cake do you like? Well, I don't like chocolate. And I'm not really a person that likes sweets. I was like, the question was, what kind of cake do you like? I think we're all way more predisposed to know exactly what we don't like, as opposed to, what do we like? It wasn't my question. What do you like? So that's where I got to at the end of this month. This whole concept, this whole idea of balance being all about love. That I can really let the self-givingness of the Spirit, that thing, that energy of life, and certainly as we continue to move through our quantum theories of life, understanding that love and creativity are kind of synonymous. If love is the creative energy of life always flowing, then creativity is also love. And I will share this. I don't know if I've ever done this, but our theme for next month is creativity, which starts tomorrow morning, just so you know. Tomorrow is the beginning of the next theme. So it's perfect to really get from this quote the self-givingness of the Spirit of itself to life for creation's sake. So for the creativity of life. So when you are in balance, when you are really in balance, you're in your most creative self. You know when they say you're in the zone? You're in the zone because you are right there at the center of love. Right there at the center of understanding that the God that we've known for so many years, that we put so much crap on, is really just this energetic, creative flow that is constantly moving through me and as me. So, as you come to the end of this month, I invite you to work on your common denominator. Yes, ask yourself the questions. Who do I laugh with? Who do I feel safe around? What you're going to find when you answer all of these questions, when you balance your work and your play, when you balance your mind and your heart, when you balance your health and the things you do for your health, when you get all of that in balance, what you're going to feel is a swelling of the heart, an emotional swelling, where suddenly you are brought back to a place where it's almost like being in love. Where that song, all the lyrics to that song are being sung by a man in the musical Brigadoon who has gone back in time and found this city that is lost in the fog. And he goes way back in time and meets this beautiful woman. Not unlike da 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 da. Well, almost like being in love is the same type of melody that brings back that common denominator of love. And the irony to this is this man is a gruff man, but he's literally leveled by this field of pure love. And there's a lot of drama, of course, but the understanding is almost like being in love. It's not till the end of the play when he sings a song, when he says, I saw a man with his head bowed low, where he actually saw himself. And it was a perfect balance. He saw the man that he used to be, and he sees the man who he is over here in this place of pure consciousness of love. And yet what he wants is to find a way to bring them together. That's the balance. Almost like being in love, that's a whole idea of the sense of love. Now that's almost like being in love. In love is the romantic part. So for us, I think it's the same thing. It's almost like being love. We are at that state where we're almost prepared to say, yes, I am love. I am this energy. That's the balance. And if we're willing to create the common denominator for ourselves in our lives, and that common denominator is love, then our question must always be, does this expand my love, or does this diminish it? Do I understand love here, or does love seem to be missing here? Because it never is. But does it seem to be missing here? So if the common denominator in your life becomes love, and that's the only thing you are willing to put there, as it says on the wall, love only, I guarantee you, if that becomes your common denominator, things shift. You just can't engage in life at any other level. You'd be walking around just like Kevin in your house all week long, singing, "What a day this has been." And it hasn't even happened yet, the day. You just know what a rare mood I'm in. It's almost like being in love. That's my gift at the end of this month for myself and to share with you. That there is a perfect natural balance. There is a common denominator between the mind and the heart, between what we feel and what we think, but between what we know and what we intuitively understand. And we had it when we were born. We had it when we came into this world. And our job is to remind ourselves that we are still that little baby with the oil in the mouth, blowing oil bubbles and popping them all over the faces of the people around them, and then laughing up a storm. Because once you know who you are, life becomes an entirely different set of rules. You're no longer living by all of these rules out there. You are living by one beautiful rule, the common denominator that we call love. So give it a try. And as we move into creativity, you can take that common denominator and watch as it literally moves you ahead, thrusts you ahead. Because I think next month we are going to be creating so much your head will spin. And that'll be a good thing. Namaste.